Guess who's back in the house? I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. I know I am so late with posting this review, but I've been so busy. I was busy this weekend and early this week, so I am giving you this review today. And so let's jump into this review, episode 3. Um, Early into the episode, Krystal is being very shady to Vinegar, which, watching every season of Drag Race, I know that queens will be shady against other queens, but I really don't like the um, the negativity that has been unfairly shown toward Vinegar. I think Vinegar is a extremely talented drag queen, and people were really just giving her so much hate because of what they've seen presented on the runway. And I have been telling everyone who can hear me that she could not wear her first look from the episode 1, the hometown look, which was so witty, so clever, so genius. She had a gown that was the map of the London Underground train. Brilliant, but due to kind of like copyright issues, the producers would not let her wear the garment. And so I think had people saw that garment down the runway, they would have a different idea of who Vinegar is. And so Vinegar says, I mean, Krystal says that Vinegar is overconfident, and that's a good thing because her looks have been a complete mess. So shady, so inappropriate. Question: do you guys think that drag queens have to be polished to be good entertainers? I have seen countless drag performances um, all over the world. Um, and I, my favorite drag queens from like the Drag Race universe, Chi Chi Devane, Kennedy Davenport, Latrice Royale, um, Katya. These are my some of my favorite drag queens because they perform. Anyone that can work an entire stage will definitely get a tip from me. Some local drag queens that I like who perform: Cornbread Jete, Calypso Jete, um, who else? Um, there's a girl, her name is like Anya Body, who I love and adore. And they are performance queens. I can appreciate someone who can just kind of like sit in one spot and perform, but you have to give an emotional, raw performance for that to go over well. I don't think you need to be a polished queen to entertain people, to command a stage, to get applause. I've seen some queens who are just look queens who, just because of the way that they look, the crowd is kind of like, tipping them a lot, applauding them, but that isn't enough for me. So I really didn't like Krystal's comment about Vinegar. Um, but I do think that Vinegar can elevate her drag uh, in order to really compete with some of the other queens on the show. And so we have the mini challenge of episode 3, which is the queens have to give a like some type of performance around a maypole. I did not know what a maypole was, but we learned what it is. And so Bag of Chips wins the mini challenge, which I thought was hilarious because she wasn't dressed how everyone else dressed for the May challenge. It was kind of like summery, light, um, Coachella realness. Um, and so I thought that was funny. So for the oh wait, no, she did not win. Wait a minute, I think Cheryl Hole won. I thought Bag of Chips was just hilarious. Sorry, Cheryl Hole won the mini challenge, and it was redemption after the conversation about her not presenting her real self um, at the beginning of the season. The other queens stated that one being Vinegar, and I forget who the other person was that stated that. But she basically told them that I am here in the competition. I am performing for the camera, not you, because I want the people at home to remember me. So I love that. For the main challenge, they have to use garbage and rubbish to um, transform them into fashionable garments. And I believe it was like Posh on a penny. I think that was kind of like the official name of it. And so everyone is pretty much struggling with the different materials. Someone who shocked me with their materials that they chose was Bag of Chips. She um, took like a box full of Brillo pads and wanted to use that, which I thought um, if she didn't know how to kind of like make a garment, that could really put her in the bottom. So I was shocked that she chose that. Vivienne chose video like vintage videotapes and cricket pads, and I really couldn't envision what she was going to do with the videotapes. I thought that she was actually going to use the videotapes as is to create a garment. So I was just really confused what where she was going with that. Um, and so the Vivienne looked over at Vinegar and was asking her um, like what she was doing, and the Vivienne gave her advice and told her to stick to fashion and not go for costume. Like we have heard that comment throughout different seasons of Drag Race for the sewing challenges, even for like other challenges where the judges do not want to see costumes, but they want to see fashion. And I've always been curious about that because um, sometimes what people have for drag are costumes. Like I think of like a Nina West, her like Viking outfit looked like a costume, but someone like Nina, who's very comedic, I envision her wearing outfits like that because she is a comedy queen. And so I've never really understood that critique. And everyone can't afford to hire a designer to buy like a $6,000 gown. However, I do think that if you're a drag queen on a budget, you should know how to sew and you should be able to make your own costumes. Um, Actually, I would love to be able to know how to sew. Like, if I could sew outfits, oh my gosh, I would create every type of designer look that I could for myself. Um, I hate shopping for clothes. Um, and the one thing that I wish I had more of were pants. It's always difficult for me to find like work pants because of my size. And so Cheryl Hole actually made a great comment in that um, for queens who are just about kind of like just look queens, that typically they don't make it all the way to the end. And Cheryl said that for this challenge, she was going to execute it to the best of her ability and sell the crap out of it. And so I think that's true. It's really sometimes you can fake it if you have a good enough attitude. And I always think about for one of the makeover challenges with the staff of Wow Presents, um, the cameraman who I forget who had him for the makeover challenge, but he looked like he was first time in drag, but he sold his character. And so it really is, I think, 50% look. Well, maybe 40% look and 60% attitude. So we get to Rue doing a walkthrough. Sorry about that. Rue doing a walkthrough, and I love when Rue does the walkthroughs. And so Rue talks to Vinegar Strokes, and Rue is trying to give Vinegar advice by commenting on Vinegar's aesthetic. And Rue basically calls Vinegar's look hodgepodge and not glamazon, which is, um, I would say that's accurate from what Vinegar had to present on stage, which is not her fault. However, if you come to a competition and you're told that you can't wear a particular look, you have to scramble to put something together. And I think the hometown look that we saw, was it polished? No. Was it horrible? No. Could it have been better? Yes. And I I was hoping that Vinegar would take Rue's comment into consideration and really give us a sickening garment. Um, but I say that if you know that you're going to drag race, you need to know how to sew. And if you don't know how to sew, you need to be able to kind of like glue, paper mache, construct some type of garment because you know this sewing challenge is coming. And so Krystal says that is a designer and that she is really excited about this challenge. And I really liked um, what she had created thus far. When Rue was doing the walkthroughs, she put a lot of thought into it. She really took her time to pick out the materials, and so I was really excited to see what Krystal was going to bring to the floor. And I believe it's Krystal who Rue asks, kind of like, what is British drag? And Krystal says that British drag is all about the performance, which I thought was kind of like ironic because she says that Vinegar looks a mess, but is only basing that off of what she's seen on the runway, um, and not based off of the way that Vinegar has performed um, during the lip syncs. So I found that to be kind of like odd. And then, kind of like later on, Krystal says that Vinegar isn't on the level of the other contestants, which I don't know. I don't know. Like, I really was rooting for Krystal, but I think that kind of like all of these unnecessary and unwanted critiques of Vinegar kind of like turned me off to Krystal. So I really, it just seemed like it was coming out of nowhere. I know that sometimes the producers will coach people into saying specific things, and maybe um, Krystal had said these things on different days, but it just seems like she was really kind of like throwing daggers at Vinegar this entire episode. And so Vinegar looks across the room and is feeling very intimidated, looking at the other garments that the other queens are constructing. And something tells her that, you need to get it together, because if you leave, I'm going to be really upset because you are my only friend. And they hug, and I can only imagine what it feels like. I think like they shoot for about 1 month, and they tape about 3 episodes per week, which that goes by so fast that you're given so much instruction, so much is expected of you. You sleep very little, you probably eat very little, you're missing your family. I can only imagine the stress that they go through to really be in peak performance at all times. And so I was really hoping that that would kind of like spark Vinegar to really think about what she was wearing on the runway. And it does. Vinegar creates a completely new look from scratch, but it still looked kind of like questionable. She was using um, pages from library books, or just books. Um, and so, but we've kind of like seen that before, and we've seen it done very well. And so I was a little nervous for Vinegar based off of that. And so we now have the new Mean Girls of the season, which are the Vivienne, Krystal, and Baga. And at this point, uh, um, the Vivienne and Baga had won um, main challenges, and they said that if Krystal didn't win, she couldn't hang out with them. But they were doing their makeup together, and they called their side of the room the confidence corner, which I thought was kind of cute. And so we go to the main challenge and to the runway, and Rue is wearing her promo look, and she looked really good. I really love, and I believe it's Raven that was doing her makeup in the UK. Um, if it isn't, let me know in the comment section. But whoever was doing her hair, like, I love her hair this season on UK. The hair has been looking really good. And one of the judges is Twiggy, iconic model, who, gosh, in her heyday, like, what a face. Um, she is iconic as Mondrian, as Perrier, one of the first supermodels. And so it was really cool that she was there. And so first out is Divina, and Divina killed it. She looked incredible. It looks like when you see people going to like the laundromat and they have those oversized um like plastic bags that are like really thin and really cheap. She made a pantsuit out of that. And it reminded me of Raja O'Hara when she tried to make the pantsuit out of burlap, but the burlap was like bursting. Divina didn't have a thread out of place, and she tailored it exactly to her body. She on this really cool um like bright red wig that was kind of like a bob, like a straight edge bob too at that, with this really cool red paint over her eyes and coming to her forehead. So she looked really good. Baga and her romper made out of Brillo pads was not a good look. It looked poorly constructed, and when she moved, you could see her lower back. I did not like it. Um, Blue Hydrangea had a pantsuit that it was okay. It didn't wow me. The Vivienne, I was really impressed because I didn't know the direction that she was going, but basically she took the actual kind of like um, the tape out of the videotapes, and she used that as the actual kind of like garment, and she cinched it in with a belt, and she laid the tape over the cricket pads and used the pads or boards, cricket boards, as shoulder pads. So she looked great, and I loved her hair, and I loved that she painted her neck black. Looked exceptionally beautiful. Cheryl had her glove skirt. Her hair was gorgeous. It looked human. It looked healthy and bouncy. She had the glove skirt with kind of like the caution tape. I liked it. I think if she would have kind of like created something to kind of like pop out her skirt so that it flared out, um, I think that would have went over better with the judges. But overall, it was actually a really cute look. Krystal created like this kind of like 19th century silhouette where she used beach balls to help create the silhouette of her look. And I believe she was wearing kind of like um, living room curtains. And she had this really cool bodice that had a lot of detail. And the same detail that she used for her bodice, she used for boots. So that looked really good. Um, I feel like I'm leaving someone out. Oh, something. Something. So I couldn't figure out the material that she used to make her like her pantsuit. And so she said they were like the vertical blinds, but it didn't they didn't look like vertical blinds to me. And so I was really confused about that. But I think overall, her outfit looked great. Um, if they were actual like vertical blinds, like kudos to her because I couldn't tell. Um, but I thought it was actually beautiful. And so Baga and Blue are safe, and Rue told them to step their Cat up. And so in the bottom was Something Wong and Vinegar, and Krystal wins the challenge. And so I just felt awful for Vinegar that she was in the bottom with Something Wong. Um, but for the actual lip sync, I really didn't know who was going to win because I thought they both performed very well. And so in the end, Something Wong stays and Vinegar had to sashay away. So I was actually really rooting for Vinegar. I wanted her to go all the way to the top because I think that she is an excellent queen. Um, that like I don't know about her other outfits. I don't know if her other outfits, if she couldn't use some of them as well. But I can't wait to see her perform live. And I'm thinking I would love to go to DragCon UK in 2020. I think that is going to be so awesome. And so let me know who you guys think should have went home. Do you think Something should have went home, or do you think um, Vinegar deserved to go home? And tell me, who do you think will be top three? Um, we only have like a few episodes to go before we get to the finale. And so this concludes my review of Drag Race UK episode 3. Until next time, treat yourselves kind. Be kind to everyone, especially trans women, because they are the most vulnerable in the community. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Besos. Bye.